Have you ever wondered how a flower could bring an entire nation's economy to its knees? A question that sounds almost absurd, but in the mid-17th century, this was the harsh reality for the Dutch during a period known as Tulip Mania. Here's a fascinating concept: economic bubbles. They're not made of soap and water, but of irrational exuberance, speculation, and the human tendency to follow the herd. These bubbles inflate when the price of an asset, say a house or a company's stock or even a humble tulip bulb, rises far above its intrinsic value. Take a moment to imagine the scene. The year is 1637. The place, the Dutch Republic. A single tulip bulb is worth more than a house. More than 10 times the annual income of a skilled craftsman. Yes, a bulb, a dormant plant. This, my friends, was the Dutch Tulip Mania, one of the most famous economic bubbles in history. Now you might be wondering, how does this happen? How do seemingly rational people allow themselves to get swept up in such irrational behavior? Well, it's a complex mix of social pressure, speculation, and the human predilection for risk-taking. When everyone around you is making a fortune from buying and selling tulip bulbs, it's hard not to join in. This is the herd mentality that often drives asset bubbles. But why should we care about a 400-year-old economic bubble? Simply put, the echoes of tulip mania can still be heard today. Economic bubbles have occurred throughout history and continue to do so. They create chaos, ruin lives, and can cause serious damage to the economy. Understanding tulip mania and other such economic bubbles can help us identify and, hopefully, mitigate the impact of future bubbles. So, buckle up as we journey back to the 17th century, a time when tulips were worth their weight in gold. In the next few minutes, we're going to unravel the mystery of the Dutch tulip mania. It all started in the 17th century, in the Dutch Golden Age, when tulips were introduced from Turkey. This was a time of unprecedented prosperity for the Dutch Republic, with Amsterdam emerging as one of the world's leading centers of commerce. The tulip, a flower native to the mountains of Central Asia, was an exotic novelty in the damp, low-lying landscapes of Holland. Its vibrant colors and unique shape fascinated the Dutch people. It was unlike anything they had ever seen before. A single bulb could produce a flower of such beauty and variety that it became an instant status symbol. The more unusual and striking the color pattern, the more desirable the tulip. But it wasn't just the allure of the tulip's aesthetic that caught the Dutch people's attention. It was also its scarcity. Tulip bulbs take 7 to 12 years to flower from seed, but a bulb can produce a blooming flower in just 1 year. This, coupled with the fact that each bulb could only produce 2 to 3 offspring a year, created a sense of urgency among the Dutch to acquire them. The tulip's popularity led to the beginning of the tulip trade. Initially, it was a simple exchange between enthusiasts, but as the demand for tulips grew, so did the prices. Bulbs were sold and resold, with each transaction inflating the price even further. The tulip trade turned into a speculative market, where bulbs were bought not for their beauty, but for the potential profit they could bring. As the 17th century progressed, the tulip trade evolved into a full-blown frenzy. It was a time of tulipomania, where ordinary citizens, artisans, and even noblemen were caught up in the tulip trade. They were all seduced by the allure of quick wealth and the status that came with owning these exotic flowers. Little did they know, their love for this flower would soon evolve into an unhealthy obsession. The tulip, a simple flower, was about to trigger one of the most infamous economic bubbles in history, but that's a story for the next scene. As demand for tulips grew, prices began to skyrocket. Imagine, if you will, the Netherlands in the 17th century, a world where the value of a single tulip bulb could surpass that of a well-furnished house in Amsterdam, the city's prime real estate. The humble tulip bulb, brought from the Ottoman Empire, was suddenly the center of a speculative frenzy. As the popularity of these flowers grew, so did their prices, fueled by the scarcity of certain varieties and the Dutch people's newfound wealth. The tulip, a symbol of status and wealth, was more than a flower. It was an investment. And as the prices rose, so did the stakes. The tulip's skyrocketing value led to the creation of a futures market. Investors could now buy contracts to purchase tulips at the end of the growing season, betting that their price would continue to increase. This was a new concept, a novel approach to investing that allowed for the trading of tulips year-round, even when they weren't in bloom. The frenzy was widespread. From merchants to artisans, everyone wanted a piece of the tulip action. The allure of making a fortune from a single bulb was too tempting to resist. People mortgaged their homes, their businesses, their futures on the promise of a single flower. The tulip had become a golden ticket, a promise of quick and easy wealth. But what goes up must come down. As more and more people invested, the market became increasingly unstable. The tulip bulb, once a symbol of prosperity, was now a ticking time bomb. The higher the prices rose, the more precarious the situation became. Yet the people were blinded by the allure of quick riches, unable to see the cliff edge they were fast approaching. The stage was set for one of the most infamous economic bubbles in history. The Tulip Mania was in full swing, and the Dutch were riding high on a wave of optimism and speculation. Little did they know, the tide was about to turn, leading to a crash that would echo through the centuries. At the peak of the mania, a single tulip bulb was worth as much as a luxury house in Amsterdam. Imagine that. An unassuming flower bulb, commanding a price tag equivalent to a stately mansion on the city's grandest canal. Now, that's not something you hear every day. The 17th century Dutch economy was in a frenzied state, with tulip bulbs becoming the unlikely heroes of an extraordinary speculative bubble. The prices were skyrocketing, and the investors were more than willing to play along. It was a dance of demand and supply, with the music playing to the tune of irrational exuberance. The most coveted of all tulip varieties was the Semper Augustus. With its striking crimson and white striped petals, it was a sight to behold. But its beauty wasn't the only thing that set it apart. At the height of the Tulip Mania, the Semper Augustus was worth an astonishing 5,000 guilders. To put that into perspective, that's the equivalent of a top-tier artisan's earnings for half a century. But it wasn't just the Semper Augustus. Ordinary tulip bulbs too were fetching mind-boggling prices. Investors were bidding up prices, often paying 10 times the annual income of a skilled craftsman for a single bulb. The frenzy was everywhere, and people from all walks of life were caught up in it. From noblemen to merchants, everyone was in the grip of tulip fever. The tulip trade was on fire, and the flames of speculation were being fanned higher and higher. Everyone wanted a piece of the action. Tulip contracts were sold and resold, driving the prices to dizzying heights. It was a wild ride, a thrilling roller coaster of escalating prices and soaring profits. But as with every roller coaster ride, there was a descent waiting at the end of the climb. The bubble was getting bigger and bigger, and it was only a matter of time before it burst. The Tulip Mania had reached its zenith, and the only way was down. But as we know, what goes up must come down. In February 1637, the tulip market collapsed almost overnight. Imagine the scene: one moment you're atop the world, the next you're staring into an abyss. The tulip, once a symbol of wealth and prosperity, became a harbinger of doom. The bubble had burst, and the fallout was catastrophic. The collapse was as unexpected as it was swift. The tulip bulbs, which had commanded astronomical prices, were suddenly virtually worthless. The market's fall was as dramatic as its rise. The same people who had been willing to mortgage their homes for a single bulb were now left penniless, their dreams of quick riches shattered. The tulips, once seen as a ticket to a better life, were now just ordinary flowers. The panic that ensued was palpable. Investors, who had once seen the tulip trade as a surefire way to amass wealth, were now facing financial ruin. The promises of wealth and prosperity had turned into nightmares of debt and despair. People who had invested their life savings in the tulip trade were left with nothing but worthless bulbs. The streets of Amsterdam, once bustling with the trade of tulips, were now filled with the cries of those who had lost everything. But why did the bubble burst? Some say it was due to the government's intervention. Others claim it was the result of a sudden realization of the absurdity of the situation. But whatever the reason, the fact remains that the Tulip Mania had created an unsustainable economic bubble that was bound to burst sooner or later. The fallout of the Tulip Mania was widespread. The Dutch economy was severely affected, with many people finding themselves in dire financial straits. The once vibrant and prosperous Dutch society was now facing an economic crisis of epic proportions. So, what can we learn from this? The Tulip Mania serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of speculation and the volatile nature of economic bubbles. It's a cautionary tale that reminds us of the perils of placing too much faith in the promise of quick riches. The Dutch Tulip Mania had come to a disastrous end. The fallout from the tulip bulb bubble was felt throughout Dutch society. A dramatic shift, akin to the changing of seasons, descended on the Dutch economy. The once vibrant tulip trade wilted, leaving economic chaos in its wake. Many found themselves with worthless tulip bulbs, their life savings evaporated, and the dreams of prosperity shattered. The effects rippled through society, from the wealthy merchants to the humble farmers. The market collapse sent shockwaves through the Dutch economy, leading to a period of economic depression. Trade was disrupted, and many businesses were left on the brink of bankruptcy. The social fabric of the time was strained with a newfound mistrust in the economic system. But, as with every calamity, there were lessons to be gleaned. The Tulip Mania served as a cautionary tale, a warning from history about the perils of speculation and irrational behavior in the financial market. It highlighted the importance of a well-regulated market, one that can withstand the whims of public sentiment and the allure of easy wealth. The Dutch Tulip Mania underscored the inherent dangers of speculative bubbles. It showed that when prices are driven by speculation rather than intrinsic value, the market is teetering on the edge of instability. It reminded us that while the allure of quick riches can be enticing, it is often the steady and rational investments that stand the test of time. In the aftermath of the bubble, the Dutch learned the hard way about the necessity of financial prudence. They learned that when it comes to investing, it's essential to separate the wheat from the chaff, to distinguish between a sound investment and a speculative bubble. The Tulip Mania also highlighted the importance of diversification in investment portfolios. By putting all their eggs in one basket, many Dutch citizens were left destitute when the tulip market collapsed. Diversification serves as a safety net, helping to mitigate potential losses. And so, the Dutch Tulip Mania serves as a stark reminder of the dangers of speculation and irrational behavior in financial markets. A timeless lesson, as relevant today as it was in the 17th century. But is the Tulip Mania a tale of the past, or does it still echo in our modern economy? The echoes are loud and clear. Economic bubbles are not confined to the tulip fields of the 17th century. They have reappeared time and again, even in our modern times, sometimes with a vengeance. Take the dot-com bubble of the late 90s, for instance. An era characterized by wild speculation on the potential of the internet, leading to a massive overvaluation of tech companies. Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Just like the tulip traders of yore, investors were lured in by the promise of quick riches, only to see their dreams shatter when the bubble burst in 2000. Or consider the housing bubble that precipitated the global financial crisis of 2008. House prices soared to dizzying heights, fueled by irresponsible lending practices and unchecked speculation. And then, the bubble burst, causing an economic devastation that echoed the despair following the Tulip Mania. So why do we keep falling into the same trap? The answer lies in our human nature. We're prone to herd mentality, often driven by fear of missing out. We get carried away by the hype, blinded by the allure of quick profits, but we can break this cycle. And the key to that is financial literacy. Understanding the fundamentals of investing, recognizing the signs of a bubble, and exercising caution can save us from the perils of economic bubbles. We need to remember that prudent investing is not about chasing quick riches, but about building wealth over time. As we delve into the world of investments, let's remember the lessons from the Tulip Mania. Let's not be swayed by the promise of instant wealth, but instead, make informed decisions based on sound financial principles. As we navigate the complexities of our modern economy, let us never forget the lessons from the tulip fields of 17th century Holland.
Thank you for your time. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like and subscribe to Financial Ruins to get more educational content. Got a topic you want us to educate people on? Comment below and we'll get right on it.